excited. We're going to be starting a new series, and you can go ahead and put up the graphic for it. Our new series is called Necessary Sin. Okay? Now, there's some sin out there that we go, oh, flat out, there is no negotiating. Okay? We say rape, murder, adultery. Okay? There's no negotiating. Those are bad things. And then we have sins that we go, they're not so bad. Maybe we say they're more acceptable, or maybe we say stuff like they're respectable even, depending on when you use them. And what we're going to be doing, we're going to examine 4 different sins that we often find necessary to life. Okay? And this week, what we're going to be talking about is lying. We're going to be talking about lying, but before we get into it, we're going to have a verse that we're going to read together every week to kind of start. It's kind of our prayer for this whole sermon series we're going to be doing. So if you go ahead and put that up. Okay, if y'all will read this with me, we'll give it a shot. Ready? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. All right? We don't want to read the Psalms part, but it's in Psalms. Okay, that is our prayer for every time that we come in during this series, okay? Now, real quick question, to kind of kick this thing off. Shoot your hand up if you've ever lied. All right? If someone's not raising their hand, you can turn to them and say, "You're lying." All right? I'm willing to bet that everyone in here has lied, okay? And to kind of give you a little story, even your youth minister has lied. Whenever I was in the 5th grade, I know, I'm sorry, I just shattered a lot of worlds out there. When I was in 5th grade, we did a family vacation that was not during a holiday break. So I was going to miss 5 days of school. And so we went and talked to all my teachers, and my teachers were cool with it under the stipulation that when I got back, I had 1 week to do all the work that they gave me for the week I was going to be gone. Okay, so we go off on this family vacation. I don't bring the work with me. It stays in Georgia. We went to Florida. It was an awesome trip. And when we got back, I'm going to be honest, I really didn't want to do it. And I came up with a brilliant, foolproof plan. Okay, so this is how the plan would work. I would come in and my parents would ask me, "So, have you got that homework done?" I would say, "Yeah, I've got it done. I've got it done." And then I would watch my favorite TV show. And then I would plan on, I'm going to do it later. I'll just do it, later on tonight. I'll get up tomorrow morning. In 5th grade, I had it figured out. So day 1 goes by, the plan worked beautifully, except for I didn't work on it later or the next morning. I was just like, okay, tomorrow I'll work on it. So my parents asked, and the day before I said it was done. So once again, I'm like, oh, I'm done, yeah. And then I was like, okay, and I started watching my TV shows and all that, and I got tired, and then it happened again. The next day, same thing, lied to my parents again. The next day, and when I would tell my teacher, I'd be like, oh, I'm working on it. In my brilliant 5th grade mind, this was foolproof. There was no way to get caught with this, okay? And so, a week goes by. I've done nothing. I come into the next week, and there was only one problem with this foolproof plan. See, when I was in 5th grade, I had Miss Clement. She was a nice lady, but there was a convenient connection between Miss Clement and especially my dad. My dad was my PE teacher. They worked together. They saw each other every day. So, on the Monday, after a full week had gone by, the teacher goes, "I haven't received any work from Jack." To which my father was like, "Oh, really?" and it was like, I remember, those moments you have when the parent comes in and they sit down and they're like, "Hey, we need to talk," and you're like, "Oh no." It was one of those moments for me. Okay, my parents came in. I was grounded for a week. I had no television for about 2 weeks. And when I came home, I got to sit in the kitchen and work on this work until it was done. And it took a while. I mean, we all have a propensity to lie. I mean, you don't have to be taught to lie. You don't have to learn to lie, right? When you're little kids, if you ever work with little kids, a little kid come running in, chocolate all over the face, and you're like, hey, did you eat a cookie? No! Yes, you did. You missed. All right? We do not have to be taught to lie. Some of you are like, that happened to me last week. Okay? We don't have to be taught. It's something that's not like your parents sit you down and go, okay, when you don't want to tell me something, here's what you do. No, we figured it out. Okay? We all have lied. But there's a very big issue with lying, okay? And that big issue is this. God hates lying. Period. God hates it. Okay? Our next verse up here, it's going to be Proverbs 12:22. It says this. Put it up here. It says, the Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in those who tell the truth. Okay? Alright, let's look at what detest actually means. Some of us have a good idea, but detest. Let's click the next one. Detest is this, okay? Something disgusting, okay? Something that's an abhorrence, which is probably a word you don't use a lot. Something that to make nauseous, okay? Our lies make God nauseous. God hates lies. Okay, and this is a big deal because a lot of us lie a lot. Okay? But God hates it. And why does God hate him? Our next verse is this, and this is talking about Satan, this next verse. It says, Satan was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks, bless you, he speaks his native language. For he is a liar and the father of lies. Okay? When we lie, we are speaking the language of Satan. Think about that for a second. Okay? God hates lies. The deceiver, which Satan is often called, it's his native tongue. That's something that is totally away from God. And yet we don't even think about when we lie. You know, a lot of times we just let it just slip off the tongue, okay? So, but here's the question. How do we lie? Okay? How do we lie? We lie to others. How many of you ever lied to someone else? Generally, probably all of you. Good job. All right. Not good job as you. Hey, thank you for raising your hand. All right. You have lied to others, okay? All right. Now, our next verse is this. It says, Jeremiah 9:5 says, friends deceive friend, and no one speaks the truth. Okay, so it happened in the Bible too. They lied back then as well. Okay, now, ladies, I got a disappointing fact to tell you. On average, ladies, you lie average of 3 times a day. 3 times a day, which roughly after a full year adds up to over 1,000 lies on average. All right, guys, before you're like, oh, ladies. Guys, on average, you lie 6 times a day. 6 times a day.
What? An hour?
Okay, now, listen up. Now, I didn't do that study. I didn't go through and ask, because I'm sure people would lie to me. But, listen up. So, guys, we lie twice as much. Girls are like, I already knew that. All right? We lie a lot, okay? And now you may be thinking, man, when did I lie? Maybe like, oh, you're late for school, and you're like, oh, teacher, yeah, well, you really overslept, and you're like, oh, no, the traffic was bad. I caught a train, you know? You may be sitting there going, okay, oh, these sunglasses? Yeah, man, these are real Oakleys, and you pay $2 for them, you know, the nice Oakleys. Oh, these are real Oakleys. That's a real Coach purse. I don't know many fancy things. I mean, look what I wear. You may. Here's one that probably all of you are guilty of. You get that call from someone, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come over and hang out?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm busy," and you're literally sitting on the couch in the same place you've been for 2 hours. Very busy. Okay? You know what I'm talking about. We lie to others. Okay? Whenever I was in high school, my lying trend did continue. We were asked to move a bed mattress from my house to my grandmother's house. Okay, and I had a truck, so we're like, we're going to put it in my truck. And so we put it in my truck and we wedge it in there pretty tight. Now, my dad said before we left, make sure you tie it down. Okay, Dad. Dad leaves. We wedge it in there, and me and my brother, who are, physicists, we know with the wind strength that would take to yank this out after we wedge this mattress in the back of my truck. It's fine. It's fine. So we're rolling, just going around the roads up in the mountains, and we go around the road, just around the curve, and I see something in my rearview mirror. And it was another one of those moments, so I was like, oh no. And then I see in the background, landing in the middle of the road. Now, I was probably going about 55, and the speed limit was 55. Okay, but it takes a little bit to stop. So I stop, and we pull over, and it's right around the curve, so me and my brother are running, and then we hear, we don't hear, we see a dump truck coming around the corner. Not going 55, not adequate speed enough to stop, and it comes around the corner and just runs it over. Dead down, it was like catty corner to corner, had double tire marks right across it. Me and my brother were like, oh no! So what do we do? You got it. We took it. We put it in the back of my truck. We tied it down. And then we went through the rest of the way. We get there. We flip it over. We make the bed. We weren't asked to make the bed. We just make the bed out of the goodness of our hearts. And we get done. It's all good, right? It's all good. My father comes over. We're sitting in the living room watching TV. Just like, oh, hey, how'd everything go? It went great. Yeah. And then my father goes in and he's like, oh, you made the bed. That's nice. We're like, we wanted to help out. And my father goes and he sits on the bed. Now, if you've ever ran over a springed mattress with a vehicle, you learn that the springs no longer spring as much spring as they usually spring. So when you sat on it, it looked normal until you sat. And when you sat, you went, and my dad sat down and went in, and he comes back out, and he's like, so did everything go right with you bringing it here? Yeah. My dad goes, I lifted it up, and I saw the tire marks. And, of course, at this time, we're just like, okay, we didn't tie it down. We spill our guts, all right? And my father was like, why would you lie to me about that? And it was embarrassing. It was something that was like, honestly, my father's a pretty forgiving guy, but he was really upset when we decided to lie to him about that as opposed to tell him the truth. We lie to each other. Okay? That's something we often do. Something else we do is we lie to God. Okay? In the Bible, there's a story about Ananias and Sapphira. Okay, this is Acts chapter 5. Don't put the verse up yet. But this is Acts chapter 5, and this couple of two people together. All right, husband and wife, they sell a piece of property. Now, during the early church, when it was all kind of getting together, a lot of people were selling stuff and giving to the church. Okay, so they decided they were going to sell a piece of land, and they sold it for, we'll say, $50,000. Okay, they didn't do things like that, but they sold it for a certain amount, and then they went into the apostles, and before they went in, they said, hey, you know what? We're going to tell them we sold it for $30,000 and give $30,000 and just keep $20,000 for ourselves, but make everyone think we gave all of it. Okay? So they come in, the husband comes first, and he says, here's $30,000. This is everything from selling that property. Here you go, church. Trying to make himself look good, right? And then this verse is what is said to him by the apostles. It says, what made you think of doing such a thing? You have not lied just to human beings, but to God. For those of you who know the story, he was struck dead right there. Okay? Dead. Drug out, buried him. A couple hours later, his wife comes in, not knowing what happened. They didn't have Twitter or cell phones or anything like that. She comes in 2 hours later-ish, not knowing what happened, and they say, hey, your husband said you sold the land for this amount. Is that true? Is this how much? And she said, yeah, of course that's how it is. And they said, man, why would you lie to God? Just like your husband before you, the men who carried him out are going to carry you out. And she's dead too. You may think that's a little bit intense, but guess what? God hates lying. And a lot of times we lie to God. We kind of get this idea in our head. We go, okay, God, you didn't really mean, like when you say obey the law of land, you didn't really mean that. Like, like totally, so it's okay for me to go out and drink whenever I'm not old enough. Okay, you didn't, you kind of gave boundaries in relationships, but God, you didn't really mean, we try to lie to God. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, not a good plan. All right? We do these things, we try to lie to God, we try to kind of justify what we do. The last one, and I think the most dangerous one, is we lie to ourselves. Okay? This is our next verse. It says this, and this is from Psalms 119. Help me understand the meaning of your commandments, and I will meditate on your wonderful deeds. I weep with sorrow. Encourage me by your word. Keep me from lying to myself. Give me the privilege of knowing your instructions. How many of you have ever seen someone who has a problem to say this line? I don't have a problem. Someone is an alcoholic. Oh man, I don't have a problem. I'm just buzzed. I'm just drunk. Someone has trouble watching videos that show. Oh, I don't have a problem. I could quit at any time. Someone who does drugs. Oh, whenever I decide to, I can just kick that habit. I can just quit it. We lie to ourselves a lot. Whenever I was a kid, I lied to myself pretty much daily. When I was 8 years old, I was a preacher's kid. And most of you have heard this story, but I think it fits in so well. I was a preacher's kid, and at 8 years old, I decided to lie about accepting Christ into my life. I went to a Baptist church. They do it a little bit differently there. I planned it out. Whenever they gave an invitation for getting to know God and accepting Him in your life, I stood up. I walked down the aisle. I knew the words to say. And I knew in my heart that I did not know God. I was doing it because I wanted Jack Caldwell to look pretty good. And so after this, it wasn't long before I was like, I really started feeling, okay, I lied about that. But you know what I told myself? I said, okay, you know what? If I'm good enough, there's no way God wouldn't take me. If I'm good enough, if I do enough good deeds, there's no way I'd be able to die and be separated from God and be in hell. That's what I told myself on a daily basis, a nightly basis. I got to where it was my routine that every day I'd be like, all right, today I'm going to be good. And I did a lot of good things. I was a part of a lot of church groups. I did a lot of mission trips. I did a lot of stuff. Because I told myself a lie long enough that I believed it. I believed if I just did enough good things, then God would say, you're okay. When I was 17, at 8 years old, I started with that lie. And I had lied back to back to back, for years. When I was 17, I was at a retreat. And I was actually chaperoning. I was a junior chaperone at this retreat. And for a middle school group, and the speaker was up there speaking. I don't even remember what he said. I just remember God was working on me. God was really telling me, he goes, Jack, you're lying to yourself. You don't know me. And I kept going, no, I'm good. I've done all these great things. I'm good. And God finally just kind of 2x4 to the face from God, spiritually, not physically. And it was just like, whack. And God's like, you'll never be good enough. This lie that you tell yourself that if I go to church enough times, if I read my Bible enough times, if I can say the Old Testament and New Testament books in order, okay, then God's going to be like, oh, you're awesome enough to not need my son's love and sacrifice, I told myself that enough to where I believed it. God said, no, that is not the truth. And on that day when I was 17, I remember I was a big, bad football player, and I'm just crying my eyes out because I finally had realized the lie that I was telling myself. And it was on that day I decided to turn my life around and live for Christ and not do it for good works, but do it for Him and to really have God in my life. But all that began with me telling myself a lie. Enough of me believing a lie. See, we tell ourselves lies all the time. Lies of stuff that, maybe the make my life easier lies. Like some of us tell ourselves a lot. You know what? I'm not good at school, therefore I do bad. I'm just not good. I'm just not smart. When really, if you put more work into it, you'd be good. But you tell yourself, I'm an idiot, so that's going to make me feel better. That makes life easier. That makes life more tolerable. Maybe you do the protect people's feelings lie. I remember we had a very good discussion in our guys group one time saying that when Teresa shows me, like, she comes up and says, what do you think? She doesn't talk like that. She never talks like that. I know she's like, no, you don't sound like that. She comes out and she's like, what do you think of my dress? And they said, what if it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen? Do you tell her it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen, or do you say, it looks great, love? And I said, neither. You don't say that. I said, but what do? A lot of times guys will be like, oh, you look great. Some guys don't even look. Like, what do you think? Oh, it looks great, yeah. It happens. Because we're like, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, Someone has bad breath. You're like, you don't want to talk to them. Be like, oh, what's happening? Oh, I feel sick. I got to go over here. No, your breath stinks. Brush your teeth a little bit. We don't want to make people feel bad. I mean, seriously. Or bathing. Some people's like, hey, maybe you should. I don't want to tell you need to bathe, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there, everybody. Bathe once a day. It's good for life. Okay? We tell each other. We tell these little lies to make people feel better, right? We don't want to hurt their feelings. You know what? Sometimes it's even innocent. Like maybe you are at home and you do not want to go out and watch a movie. You're just kind of like, okay, it's Friday and I'm ready to chill, and someone calls you up and they're like, hey, you want to go to the movies? And instead of going, no, man, I just need my chill time, we go, oh, man, Mom's got me doing some chores and I'm going to be doing that all night. Why do we lie? You're afraid what people are going to think. Sometimes we do it to avoid conflict. How many of you ever been in a situation where, like, you're voting on, like, a game in class, and you sit there and they're like, hey, I want to play trash ball or whatever. I don't know what they play nowadays. That's a fun game. Yeah, my wife plays that in their class. Okay, you're like, but the other choice is like Yahtzee, and the Yahtzee kid's kind of scary. And you sit there and like, hey, Jack, you want to play Yahtzee? I want to play Yahtzee. And you're like, who doesn't love Yahtzee? I want to play Yahtzee. That's a lie. That's a lie. I'm not a fan of Yahtzee. I'm not a great But we do. We lie to avoid conflict. We do it to make ourselves look better. I did this for years, and I don't know why. Every time I would give a workout lift, I'd be like, but how much do you bench? And I'd be like, if it was 280, I'd be like, 285. What does that even make a difference? But to me, I was like, 280 doesn't sound very good. 285. How tall are you? I'm 5'10". I am 5'9", guys. I'm sorry. I told people for years I was 5'10". It's sad. To look better, right? We tell these lies all the time. Okay, it just, how fast did you run? I ran on whatever. I don't even know a good time. I don't run enough to know what a good time is. 4:20 on a certain distance at a certain time. It's like we lie. We put all these little lies in there. Maybe it's to get ahead. Some of you may come up on this time where it's between you and someone else, maybe for a job or something, and then you're like, but you know what? I'm really good at computer stuff. And maybe you're not. We do this and we laugh and we giggle because a lot of times, we laugh and giggle because we know we do this. But God hates it. Okay? God hates it. And we do it a lot. We tell ourselves these things enough to where it lifts us up, where it makes us better, makes us feel better. And eventually, We tell ourselves that, you know what, my lie is better than the truth. We say that my lie, whatever it is better than the truth, because the truth is sometimes hard. The truth is sometimes what is needed to be shared, but is going to be grueling to go through. But when we talk about all this, it's like we go, okay, my lies, they bring me security. But really what your lies do is they bring insecurity, because you can't live a life of integrity on a foundation of lies. It doesn't work. Because you tell one lie, then you have to tell another lie to keep up with that lie. And then you have to tell a third person the same lie, because what if they run into lie number one person, and by the end of it, you are just spilling out lies. We can't do that. We often say, you know what, my life will get me more, but you'll have less of what you really need. We say that my lie will help you like me. But in all actuality, relationships based on lies don't work. They don't work. If you're entering a dating relationship and like all the time before, you were like, let's say you're not a runner, but she is a runner, so you became a runner so that she'll like you. And you're running and you're running and running, and you start dating, and then you're like, dude, I can't run anymore. She's going to be like, well, who are you? That's not a real relationship, because they think you enjoy some of the same things, but you don't. You can't build relationships on lies. And the big part about all this is that when we talk about truth, like telling the truth, and what's the whole deal with it? It's kind of like this. If God is standing right here, and we're wanting to be closer to God, every time we lie, we're taking a step away from God. Remember, God detests lies. The more lies we tell, the further we are from the truth. Because God is truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Okay, so every time, the more and more we lie, the further and further we get away from God. And it's like, we tell ourselves a lot, well, I read my Bible. I'm pretty sure that Satan probably knows the Bible front to back. It's not just about knowing the Bible. It's like, am I living a truthful life? Am I telling the truth? Am I being honest? Because if we really want to grow closer to God, we can't do it by sinning. We can't do it by giving false witness. If you want to go old school King James style, lying keeps us from growing closer to God. And we sit there and we say, oh, what about a little lie, a little white lie? Lying is lying. And so whenever we do this, now you may be sitting there thinking about your life, and you may be going, okay, there are some lies out there, I could not tell the truth. Why not? Because it would break someone's heart, because it would make me look bad. Why? Because when it's all about you, then it can't be about God. And our lives are supposed to be about God, so if we're going to be closer to God, we've got to make it about Him. Lying's a tough one, because it's so easy. It's so simple just to throw out a lie than be honest and be truthful. Guys, I don't have a nicely wrapped up ending to this, because it's something that God's just very straightforward about. What I want you to do is this. I want you to think about, I want you to think right now, think about the past week. What lies have you told, big or small? What lies are you putting out there? Because each time you lie, you're kind of chaining yourself up, because you're bound by that lie. Whatever it is, whether it's, I tell you that I weigh 230 and I don't. And whether it's, I'm 5'10 and I'm not. Whether it's, you know what? It's okay that you're doing that stuff with your girlfriend or boyfriend. And I'm bound by those lies. But you know what? Whenever we stop lying, we are set free. Our last verse is this. It says, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Jesus Christ is the truth. Knowing the truth sets you free from that. Living a life closer to God sets you free from the lies that you have to tell. Doesn't make it easier. Doesn't make it the simple way. Doesn't make it like, oh, this is going to make me look the best way. Except it's going to make you look best to God. Is that the important thing to you? Is that what drives you? What I want from you tonight is I'm going to do a little challenge. Now, Teresa's going to come up. She's going to go ahead and start coming up. To the sides here, I have some slips of paper. And on them it says this. It says, I lie because. And then a blank. I want you to fill out that blank. I don't want you to put your name on it. I don't need to know who lies because whatever. I want you to write down, I lie because maybe I'm scared of my parents. I lie because I'm afraid friends will leave me. I lie because I don't think I'm good enough. I lie whatever. Whatever the lie is, whatever your motivation for lying, I want you to write it down. And then after you write it down, I want you to come up to this altar and I want you to talk to God about it. I want you to talk to God about it, and I want you to talk with God and say, God, I want to give this lie over to you. Help me tell the truth. And I want you to leave it up here. There's a little space behind the rail here. I want you to leave it up here. I want you to write it down, pray about it, and leave it up here. Because how we get set free, how we grow closer to Christ is through being honest, through being truthful. And we are lying to ourselves if we say, you know what, I can lie and grow closer to God. One note over here, please write your thing on one of the sheets of paper, not on the hardwood of the piano. Okay? When you're writing, when she's going to start playing, write, pray, and then you can go back to your seat. Will you bow your heads for me? God, I thank you for today. I thank you for each youth in here, and I thank you for the life that you've given them. God, I pray that you help us to stop lying. To stop lying to make us look better. To stop lying to avoid conflict. To stop lying to trick ourselves into believing something that's just not true. God, I pray that you just invade our hearts tonight on this. We've all done it, God. And we're probably going to mess up again, God, but I pray that you help us to seek after you. I pray, God, that you help us to turn this over to you. God, I pray for those out there who are dealing with some major lies in their life. The lie that they're not good enough. The lie that you can't possibly forgive them. The lie that no one would like them if they were their true selves. God, I pray that you kill that lie in their heart. God, I pray that we seek after your truth, God. That we share your love through honesty. God, it's hard. It is so hard for us to do, and I pray, God, that you give us the courage to step up. To step up to the challenge. When you said, do not lie, God, you meant it, and I pray that you help us realize that in our lives. Whether it's quote-unquote big lies or small lies, God, I pray that you help us. You help us just to surrender those to you. I pray all this in your name.